7 things that I wish I knew before I bought my red light device. And actually it's more like 8 things, but I'm thinking like the last thing is something you guys can help me. So I'm gonna save that for last in the video. So I'm gonna start up with the small things and then I'm gonna scale up to a little bit more advanced stuff. But don't worry, I'm gonna be as clear and as understandable as I can be. You see, I was all happy and euphoric in the beginning of my red light journey, but after a while I began to experiencing and noticing some stuff that maybe wasn't that great, and maybe some stuff maybe was good that I didn't know in the beginning. So let's begin. Number one, the power cable. If I only knew. You see, when you are ordering a red light device, they are often including other stuff too with your device, such as remote control, sunglasses, door hooks, this wire thing, I don't know what to call it, but you can leveling the device depending on which body part you want to treat. And but they also are mentioning that there is a power cable included too, luckily. But they don't mentioning how long the power cable is. And here is my issue with this, because when you are mounting and doing your installation of your red light device, you connect the power cable on the back side of the device. And as you can see here, the cable is plugged in on the top of your device, which means that you will lose between 2, maybe 3 feet range of your cable. That's almost like half of the cable range, and I think that is a pity, because as you can see here, I have pulled up the red light device the maximum that I can pull it up for my door, and I am like 5.8, maybe 5.9 with the right shoes. But if you are 6 feet tall, I definitely see a big problem with this. So what happened is in my home is that the power cable can't really reach down to the wall socket, which means that you have to have extended wires to be able to connect your device. If it is something I don't like, it is a lot of different power cables or extended power cables lying down on the floor. I don't think that looks clean and nice at all. So I wish that most of the brands, not only this brand, other brands too, would do the connection in the bottom instead, so you will get most of your range with the power cable. And I mentioned also that I pulled up this device in the maximum height on my door, which leads us to my next thing. Number 2, the door hook. This one really ruined my original plan or my ambition where I wanted to place or mount my red light device. I had an ambition to put the red light device on the door, and the dream or the plan was that every time I would do my session, I would close the door, plug in the power cable, do my sessions, plug out the cable again, open up the door, and I wouldn't see the device. But what I didn't know was that the door hook itself is a little bit thick. So every time I close the door, try to close the door, I have to force the door a little bit to stay closed. And I think in long term that will damaging the door. Another thing is that my door is in a corner, which means that when I'm open up the door, the device will hit the wall. And that is not a good alternative for me, because I got kids running around in the house. So there I was, standing in front of the door, realizing that the door hook didn't work out and the power cable was too short. Anyway, I solved it. I went to the local store, bought a hook, mounted up on another side of the room or corner in the room, and I think that solution worked quite well for me. Number 3, the display and the remote control. And actually, I'm quite happy with the display. It is a little bit basic and boring if you compare it with other brands that are maybe more hyped. but it does its work. It's really easy to maneuver between all the settings and all the options that you have on this device. For example, you have options like multi-waves that you can decide if you just want to use red light or near infrared light, or you want to use them at the same time. You have also a dimming mode, which I think is really good to have if you are beginner or a little bit sensitive for red light. You can just tone down the light a little bit so you can get more used to the light. This device also has a timer. You can set the time between 0 to 30 minutes, and that is a really good thing. The 30-minute is I don't know if they did that in purpose, but the general recommendation is that you shouldn't do more than 30 minutes session time per day. You shouldn't get more overexposed with red light than that. And the other recommendation is that you should do around 10 minutes session time per body part. And what I've been realizing is that I, for like over 6 months now, been setting the timer for 10 minutes for the body part. So if I'm like treating my arm or another body part, the machine will turn off after 10 minutes, and I will repositioning myself, and I would start over another 10-minute session. And I've been realizing maybe that is not sustainable in long term, because I think you can wear out the transformer in the device. So lately I've been starting to do, like, if I know I'm gonna treat 2 body parts, I'm setting the timer for 20 minutes. And after a while I'm just leaning on the side and look on the display how much time it's left. And I think you can maybe extend the lifetime on your device by doing that instead.
You know what really grinds my gears?
So what grinds my gear when it comes to the display and the remote control? Well, I'm gonna pick picky now, and don't get angry on me, but I feel a little bit annoying that they put the display on the side. And even so, I wish there were an option where you can choose if you want the display to be the left or on the right side. Or even so that maybe they put the display on the top, or you maybe, if infrared are looking at this, maybe you guys should put like a 45-degree angle from the side, so it would be a little bit easier to see the display. Because as I mentioned before, I mount the device in a corner, which means that every time I have to look where I am in the settings, I have to lean in my head against the wall to see where I am when I'm doing my settings for my sessions. Now, there are probably a lot of people out there who are very skilled and don't need to look on the display and know exactly where they are. Almost like when you had the old cell phone Nokia 4210 models when you were paging someone. Yes, I am that old. I had one of those too. So when it comes to the remote control, I am really happy that they send me a remote control. But as I mentioned before, it's a little bit useless for me, because it doesn't matter if I have a remote control and I can turn it on and do the settings with the remote control. If I can't see the display properly and I'm not really certain where I am in the menu system, I have to anyway stand like this and look on the display and see where I am. So for me, this remote control in that aspect is a little bit useless. I wish there were a little display here so you can see where you are in your settings. Now, there are one really positive thing with that they are sending this remote control. Now, I've been talking about sustainability and extending the lifetime on your device. And I believe that if you're using the bottoms on the menu here on the side, I think after some time of use, the bottoms maybe will stop working as properly as it did from the beginning. And there, I think it's a really nice thing that they are sending this remote control, is that when the buttons doesn't work properly, just bring the remote control and you can maybe maneuver through the system with the remote control, and therefore you can extend the lifetime more for your red light device. Because I believe when it comes to things that breaks in this kind of devices, it's probably the menu system, or as I mentioned before, the transformer in this device. Number 4, size does matter. I'm just joking, but still I'm a little bit serious about it. If you are considering buying a red light device, I think you should really think what kind of treatments you want to do. If you're just into do the skin treatments and just want to treat your face, I think you're good enough just to buy a smaller device. There's a lot of different models now out in the market where they are offering like a table stands for the smaller devices. So I think you could save a lot of money just to do that if it's just the skin treatment and the face you want to do. So when it comes to my situation here with the size in my home, is that the device is mounted in a tight corner and I can't do 10 minutes session time on my back. I have to do like 20 minutes to treat my entire back, and it's the same thing in the front. And that is a little bit annoying because you lose session time when you're doing that. And that, as I mentioned before, the max limited time or the recommendation is 30 minutes session time per day. So you lose session time only because the device is too small. So I think if I could, I would go back in time and tell myself to buy a wider model. Red light treatment versus IPL treatments. You see, in the beginning, when I was trying to find the right device, I only looked on the shape and how many LED lamps and all that, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't pay so much attention about behind the science, how the red light works. I was pretty much convinced that it was working only on one factor, and that was that NASA, the space company, they are using this technique out in the space to heal wounds. And I was thinking, well, if NASA is using it, it has to be true that it's working. So 6 months before I purchased my red light device, I started to treat myself with an IPL machine. And what you do is that I think I bought it for around $300 something. And what you do is that if you have a problem areas on your body, with body hairs, that is, you're shaving that area and you are shooting yourself with a very bright light. It's not a laser. So what happened is that when the hair gets exposed with this high frequent light, the hair falls asleep and it smells a little bit burned hair when you're doing it. And the hair falls asleep and it will not grow as fast as usual. And this can also be a permanent thing. So you can actually get rid of body hairs with it. But when I started to do my sessions with my red light device, I thought it was really convenient for me to use the both light spectrums, red light and the near infrared light at the same time, just because I wanted to save time. And what I didn't know or thought or figure it out was that when I was exposing myself with the red light, I actually began to stimulate the body hair that I got rid of, and it began to grow back again. And I wish I knew this in the beginning, because when I'm treating my back, I maybe wouldn't have used the red light. I maybe would just use the near light instead. And the same thing is when I am treating my hair, because I'm bending in front of the device, and when I'm doing that, I also expose my shoulders with red light. As it is for now, I'm putting a towel over my shoulder just to not get exposed with the red light. And when I am treating my back, I only use the near light. As I mentioned before, I can actually choose between just doing the red light or the near light, or do the both of them at the same time. Now I am back on page one on that journey, and I think the only thing I have to do is to go to a real laser clinic to get rid of that body hair. Well, this was something I was quite fixed, and I was paying a lot of attention on this when I was comparing the different brands and models. And what I was looking on was how many watts was it per LED lamp and how many LED lamps was there. And to count the total effect of a device is that you take the number of lamps and multiply it the effect per lamp. So this one has like 240 LED lamps, and each of the LED lamps has an effect of 5 watts. So you take 240 multiplied with 5 watts. Now, normally this is a good thing to compare between all the different brands and devices, but it's a little bit misleading to just look on that number because we have other variables to take account with when you are choosing your red light device. When it comes to the every LED lamp has a lens, which means that the beam angle can be different between all the models and brands. And the smaller beam angle you got, the more intense or more focused light you will get, which means that you can have a pretty powerful device, but if you have like a 60 or a 90-degree angle on the light, the effect will not be as good as a more concentrated light, which means that it will impact negatively on the benefits that the red light can give you. So luckily for me, I began to research this and I went into the web page for this device, and I couldn't find which kind of beam angle I have on this one. But luckily in the user guide, they are actually telling are declaring which kind of beam angle this one has, and it has like a 30-degree angle on every lens here. So this will make the light better, more focused, and will penetrate the skin better. Now, before you are running to your user guide or going to a web page to search up on see which kind of degree beam angle you have on your device, I want to point out that you have probably a very good device anyway, because I haven't read about this, but it's a theory, but I think you can recap the losses you get from the beam angle. If you have a very wide light, I think you can recap the losses from that by standing maybe a little bit closer to the light, or you are having longer sessions times, so you will probably get almost the same results anyway. It's just a theory from my side. I haven't done that much research, so I will probably do more research about this and see if I can find any interesting studies about this. Number 7, the blue light. And this is like the story of my life. It doesn't matter what I'm buying. For example, I bought a television. It took us like a few months. A new version of it came out, a new model who was much better. And same thing with the speaker to the television. I bought a Sonos Beam, and suddenly the Sonos Beam was out, and it has Dolby Atmos and all that fancy stuff I just wanted. And I feel it happened almost the same thing with the red light device that I bought. After like a month or two, I've started to get news that some brands started to do models with blue light. So I started to read about what blue light is, and it's a light spectrum that is lower than the red light, which means it doesn't penetrate the body as deep as the red light, which means that it impact or can treat better can do better treatments when it comes to skin damage, acne, and depression. Now, the red light can do some good result with all of these three categories, but the studies I've been starting to read about shows that it has a little bit better results when it comes to those kind of treatments. So I wish I knew this because I have family members who maybe would appreciate a little bit to have that blue light. So I probably will make a video or two about blue light. I think it's really interesting how the different light spectrums can have such a different impacts when it comes to the treatments. But still, it's really annoying when you are buying something and the new thing is just around the corner and you didn't know anything about it. So guys, that was my 7 things that I wish I knew before I bought my red light device. But I have one more thing, and that is something I wish you guys can help me with because I'm trying to dig into this subject and I feel like there's a little loophole in this, and it depends probably depending on which country you are in because we have different regulation, and it is the FDA class approvals. This device has that, and I was believing that that was really important that it has that. But I've been reading some other brands that doesn't have FDA class improved devices. They are claiming they have so-called fitness product, and that is if you have that, you don't need to have that approvement for the FDA. So I'm standing between two camps here. I don't really understand what you should go after. I think the logic and what my brain my brain is telling me is that you should probably go after devices that are FDA Class 2 approved. I think that sounds a little bit safer, but I'm not sure. So if you would be kind to write down a web page or some direction on what is right or wrong in this, I would really appreciate with that help. Okay, guys, if you found this video useful, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you have any wishes of content, please write it down in a comment, or if you have any questions, just write it down and I will try to answer you as quickly as possible. So hopefully I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.